Just wanted to live better. So they held this little kangaroo court. There were 2 or 3 SS officers and my father, and the charge was smuggling money in with the intent of escaping. And actually, he knew the SS men who held this court, but nevertheless they had to do their duty, and they literally beat him to death with rubber clubs to get him to confess. And he told me this himself. And around this trial started about 10 o'clock in the morning, and by noontime he couldn't stand up. I mean, they beat him around the kidneys, and that was it. They told him to stand up. He said he couldn't, and he was not going to agree to the charges because he knew he'd be killed anyway, and he wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. About the same time, somebody knocked on the door and brought in lunch for everybody. Now listen up. This is it. From the horse's mouth, they brought in lunch, and these guys were sitting around the table. My father was on the floor, and they told him to stand up. They called him by his first name, Walter Aufstehen. And he said, I can't, I haven't had anything to eat today at all. And you know what happened? There was a moment of silence, and they said, well, there's enough food here for all of us. And they let him sit at the table with them. Now, he was in such a bad state, I don't know whether he really ate anything or not, but I guess he picked. The trial continued while they were sitting there, and in no time, they decided the charges were dropped and he was not guilty of smuggling in money, and they let him live. Now that was in fairly late. That was in October 1944, or maybe a little earlier, September. And by that time, the Russians were on their way anyway. And to make a long story short, you may or may not know there was a death march from Auschwitz. It was on the 28th of January, 1945, and they had to walk 35 miles from Auschwitz to a place called, I think it was Chemnitz, where they had a railhead and distributed those prisoners in other camps. And he ended up in a camp where our good friend, who's our Saturn V expert?
Huh? Saturn V.
You know, what's his name?
Hess?
No,
Braun.
know, they went to the moon.
Braun.
Werner von Braun.
Gosh, I guess we're not old enough to know.
An exalted ex-SS man who had talents that we needed in this country, which is another story. But anyway, he was there and was well enough to continue working at his same rank. Actually, he became a capo, and they were hated Jews who had special privileges.
He was a sellout.
Then by about March or so, just towards the end of the war, the Germans marched all the Jewish prisoners within maybe 100 miles to one of the
docks.
Baltic. I can't remember the name of it.
Latvia, Estonia.
No, it just on the Baltic Sea. The name of the port. It's unimportant. they had, and some of you may know, there is an infamous story about the Arcona, which is British, which was a German luxury liner, which they were to fill it up with Jews, tell them they were being taken to Sweden, and then scuttle the ship. It turned out the RAF got wind of this and thought that Germans were trying to escape, and they sunk the ship. And about 5,000 Jews were killed.
Whoa.
Now, there was a great number of Jews sort of waiting to be shipped on some of the other boats. My old man, he smelled a rat and kept on going to the end of the line.
God.
Continually.
Wow, that's
Continually.
amazing.
So he'd get up and then he'd walk to
And
the
then
microphone.
it turned out all of a
Sharp.
sudden there was some artillery fire, and the British 8th Army was just about 8 miles from this place. And there was just confusion, and the whole thing came to an end.
Is
And
it
the
10
next
after
day
5?
he was
Good.
liberated by the Canadian Army that was attached to the British 8th Army. And that's his story.
That's amazing.
Whereas my mother,
Not so good.
she was taken to Auschwitz 3 days after he was, and within a day or two, there are absolutely no records of her even getting there, and that's it.
We better move on.
Pardon?
We better
Come on,
move
Dad, let's see the
We
rest.
better
It is
go.
our
I don't know how this happened, but I didn't mean to draw an audience here.
Well, it is our honor.
Anyway, if you have you